It's our turn, episode number 75, Highly Thematic Games. In this episode, Jesse and I talk about the games we've played recently, and we discuss games that excel at central themes.
This is the Dice Tower Network, adding games to your wish list since 2005.
Hosting for this episode is generously provided by our fantastic supporters on Patreon.com. If you'd like to help us out by pledging $1 per month or more, please visit patreon.com/OurTurnPodcast. We'd like to send a shout out to our newest patrons, Lance and Michael. Every dollar helps to keep this show going strong. Thank you, Lance and Michael. Future Cathy here. In this episode, it looks like my microphone settings changed, and I didn't notice it until after we'd recorded this episode. So it sounds like I'm recording in an empty room. My apologies for this. Unfortunately, I'm not sure how to fix it for this recording. I just wanted to let you know that we'll be back to our much better audio quality going forward. In the meantime, enjoy this episode. Hi, this is Cathy Ford. Welcome back to Our Turn. And today I am joined once again by Mr. Jesse Metcalf. Jesse, welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to be here once again.
So today, Jesse and I are having a discussion about games that do theme really well. And I'm really looking forward to this. I've been thinking about it quite a bit for the last couple of weeks since I realized that this was coming up. And I'm looking forward to it. But first, let's talk about what we've been playing lately. So, Jesse, what have you gotten to the table since we last spoke?
Quite a few things. The ones I really want to talk about, something old and something really new that I really love. So first, let's talk about the old. The game I want to talk about is Wizard. Wizard is a trick-taking card game that was introduced to me, almost 2 decades ago.
This is one I have not heard of.
Yeah, it's really good. First, the good parts. So, it came out, when was it? 1984. It came out, it seemed like a very thematic game, kind of getting to the topic early, where they had special suits for them. But it has been re-released so many times by different publishers that basically it's now a standard 52 deck of cards with the standard suits and then 4 wizards and 4 jesters. It was designed by Ken Fisher. Franz Vorwinkel did the original art on it. Now it's just, there's been a lot of generic art added to this. It's been, like I said, published by various publishers. The copy I have is by US Game Systems, originally published in 1984. So, like I said, it's a 60-card deck, 52 standard cards, 4 wizards, 4 jesters. It's a trick-taking game. The number of rounds you're going to play is based on the number of players. So there's 60 cards, you divide that by the players, and that's how many rounds you're going to play. So with 4 players, 60 cards, you're going to have 15 rounds. The first round, you're dealt 1 card. The second round, 2 cards. The third round, 3 cards. You flip over the top of the deck to determine what trump will be for that round. Then everyone looks at their hand and decides how many tricks they're going to take exactly in that round. And that can be very hard because if you have a high card in trump, you might think, well, if I have 1 card and it's a 1-card round and I have a high card in trump, it might wait. But if somebody has a wizard, wizards beat everything. So you might bid 1 thinking you're going to take it, and someone else does, and now you're off. And they thought they were going to take 1, obviously. They have a wizard, so they take it. So you do that, and then you get 2 cards, and you try to determine how many of those tricks you're going to take, and so on. It's a standard trick-taking game with trump in that whatever suit was led, you have to follow. If a wizard was led, then there's no suit to follow. If a jester was led, then the next person to play, that's the suit you have to follow. And you have to play that suit unless you're out of that suit, or you have a blue card like a wizard or a jester. So it gets hard. Scoring, if you meet your bid exactly, you get 20 points, plus 10 points for each trick you took. If you miss your bid, you lose 10 points for every trick you were off. So in a 5-card hand, I decided I was thinking taking 3 and I only took 1, I lose 20 points. And once you get to the last round, you deal out the entire deck, so there is no trump. But you know there's 4 wizards out there, 4 jesters out there, and then a bunch of other cards, and you have no idea what the distribution is. So trying to figure out how many tricks exactly you're going to take can be very interesting. I've played this a few times since we last spoke, fell in love with it again because I love trump and trick-taking games like Pinochle and Pitch. So if you're looking for something, you love trick-taking games, it's a great game to teach people who aren't normally board gamers but do enjoy an occasional card game. So that's Wizard. I would give it a 5 on the Our Turn podcast rating. It is outstanding.
Excellent. I am still brand new to trick-taking games. I've only played a few of them, but I find them really fun. And this one sounds intriguing. I'm going to have to look for a deck.
And I think they're still largely published. I've seen them at my hobby store. Every time I go in, I see when they get a refill of them. They go fairly quickly, so...
Oh, okay.
It should be widely available still.
All right, that's just called Wizard.
Yep, Wizard.
All right, fantastic. My first game that I'm going to talk about, I got to spend the weekend with my niece, Walker Lynn. And she is 3 now. She has started saying, Aunt Cathy, can we play a game? And my answer is, of course. I've gotten her 3 different board games now. I got her one that's designed for 2 years and up called Hannah Honeybee. I got another one called First Orchard. This last weekend, I tried to introduce her to Animal Upon Animal, which is a dexterity game. And it's still a little bit beyond her ability to figure out how to stack the animals. So we played that a couple of times, but then she kind of lost interest because she just wasn't able to get them to stack. But we played First Orchard 8 times in 2 days.
Wow.
All at her prompting. I pulled out the games that we had and I said, what do you want to play? And she pointed at First Orchard, pulled it out, and then set it up herself.
Wow. Very good.
So in First Orchard, you have these 4 round cardboard discs that have trees drawn on them. And each one has something on it that is the color of the fruit that's supposed to go on it. So like the plums, there's something blue on it. I'm drawing a blank on what it is right now. Then the red apples has a basket of red apples. The green apples has a basket of green apples. And then the pears has a yellow watering can. She figured all that out herself without me having to tell her, and she put the fruit on the right trees. And at one point I was trying to help her set up, and I put the plums on the red apple tree, and she informed me that was absolutely not correct and fixed it. And so after that, I'm like, all right, you set it up. From now on, you set it up. Okay. And she sets up the path for the little raven to walk on. There's a little wooden raven. All the pieces are either nice, solid, thick cardboard, or they're chunky wooden pieces. So the fruit is all brightly colored, chunky wooden pieces that sit very nicely on the trees. They fit perfectly on the trees, and they're perfect for little 3-year-old hands. And then there's a little wooden raven and a big chunky wooden die. And on 4 of the sides of the die, which is a D6, there's a color: red, yellow, green, and blue. And then on one other side, there's a basket. That's kind of like the wild card. If you roll a basket, you get to pick whichever fruit you want. And she has figured out that it's a good idea to pick the one that there's the most of, because obviously that one's not coming up, so you need to get that one harvested. The whole goal of the game is to pick all the fruit off the trees before the raven gets to the end of the path. The last side on the dice is a raven, and if you roll the raven, then the raven gets to move 1 step up the path. And there are 5 steps to the path. So if the raven gets to the end of the path, then he's attacking the trees for fruit. Whoever's playing the game loses. It's a cooperative game. It's great for taking turns. It's great for teaching color. It's great for teaching game ideas like wild card and winning and losing, especially the game winning and losing as opposed to competing against one another. And it teaches working together to accomplish a goal. And it also teaches how to roll dice. She sees me shake my hand and the die rolls around in my hand. And then I roll the die on the table. She picks it up and it's the same. It's, just as big as her hand almost. And she shakes her hand even though the die doesn't move. And then she drops it on the table. So it's kind of funny watching her mimic me, rolling a die, and it's actually rolling around in my hand, but it doesn't move in hers. She loved this game. We played it probably 4 or 5 times on Saturday, and then we played it another 3 or 4 times on Sunday. And this game, it's very simple. It's quick and easy to teach, but it's engaging even for adults to play. I was not bored at all sitting playing this with her and watching her play it and watching her figure it out. If I rolled a basket, I would say, which fruit should I pick? And she would tell me which one. It was almost always the tree with the most fruit on it, because it's clicked in her mind that, we got to get all this fruit off, and that one still has a lot. So this is a fun game. I absolutely give it a 5. It was designed by Annalise Farkachovsky, and I apologize if I mispronounced that. It's published by Haba. Now, if your friendly local game store doesn't carry Haba, I try to always purchase games from my friendly local game store first. But if your game store doesn't happen to carry Haba, which wouldn't surprise me, Amazon has a great selection of them. And you can, of course, buy from the Haba website as well. These are games, they're made in Germany, and they are really good quality components. And in all 3 of the games that I've gotten from Haba, they come with this little packet that I make sure she doesn't mess with. It's a paper packet. You open it up, and it has instructions for cleaning the components in like 6 different languages.
Oh, wow.
Little teeny, tiny print. But it's there in 6 different languages. And so she'll pick it up sometimes and open it up, because it kind of opens up wide. And she's like, "What's this?" I take it away and I carefully fold it back up. I go, "That's for Mommy and Daddy." But yeah, these are totally safe for kids that still like to put things in their mouth, or if the kids want to mimic eating the fruit. They're solid wooden pieces. The kids aren't going to do anything to hurt these. The components hit the floor several times because 3-year-old, no damage at all. There's nothing that she's going to do to hurt any of these pieces. And she's learning how to put them away as well. Because when we were done, I said, "Okay, we need to clean this up." And so then the first couple of times I showed her, because the game would go away after a couple of games, then we'd pull it back out later, like after her nap or whatever. And so the first couple of times I showed her the best way to kind of pack it up. And after that, she was off to the races. She could put it away on her own and even get the box lid on straight. So First Orchard is a wonderful game for young kids. If you want to get your young kids hooked on games early, this is a good one. This is a really good one.
Very cool. I do enjoy Haba games when I get a chance to play them. Their very first game series is very good for, again, young children.
And this is part of that series.
Sadly, my youngest daughter just turned 6, so it's probably a little too basic for her at this time, but there's some other ones in the Haba series I've been wanting to try. This one sounds very good, though.
She might like Animal Upon Animal. With Animal Upon Animal, you're stacking animals in a pyramid, and it's a dexterity game. And it's designed for 4 and up, but that's First Orchard from Haba.
Cool.
What's next for you?
Okay, so I talked about something old. Let's talk about something very new. In fact, I just got the Kickstarter fulfillment for it a couple of weeks ago. And this game combines route building and pick up deliver from train games with the new hotness of roll and write that seems to be very popular these days. And I'm talking about Steamrollers, a game by Mark Garretts and published by Flatline Games. The artist is Benjamin Beneteau. Again, this just fulfilled, and it's still in the ongoing fulfillment worldwide for this. It was supposed to be a Kickstarter exclusive game. However, Stronghold Games picked it up for publication here in the US, so our 1-year exclusive.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's great. Some people were a little miffed because there was going to be a 1-year exclusive Kickstarter only game, and I'm like, well, yeah, but I'd rather have more people get a hold of the game sooner rather than have this exclusive thing just for me for a year. So,
right.
In the spirit of generosity and sharing, I hope they get published because this game's great. Basically, you're building a railway network, very much like you would do in Railways of the World, Steam, Age of Steam, or an 18XX game. So you're going to build your route, you're going to upgrade your engine, you're going to deliver cargo, and try to score as many points doing so. So every round, there's going to be a number of standard 6-sided dice rolled equal to the number of players plus 1, plus a track die. And then there's a first player marker that goes around the board. So if you're the first player, you get to look at all the dice rolled, pick one, and using the number on that die, do one of several actions. There are 6 regions on the board of different colors. So the number you roll on the die basically corresponds to that region. So you can either build track. There's 3 types of track, 2 of which will be on the track die face that's above you. So you may not always get the direction you want to go, but there's plenty of options. So you can build track in that region. You could use the die as a raw number to upgrade your engine. There's numbers 1 through 6 on the engine, so you can cross out that number. The problem is you can't upgrade that engine anymore using that number, so it's really hard to get your engine fully upgraded to 6. In the game I played, I only got it to 4, which was sufficient for what I wanted to do. You can also use it to do pick up and deliver. If you have a route built between 2 cities, you can move a cube from the region you rolled to the color particular region that wants that cube. So at the beginning of the game, a bunch of colored cubes are put on each city, and you want to deliver those to the colored region they belong to.
Oh, okay.
And you want to do it through the longest route, much like you would in Steam, which is Steam Rails to Riches, the other train game I play quite a bit. So you want it to be as long as possible because every segment from a city to town or a city to city it goes through, you get a point. So if you go through like just from one city where the good is to the city it's delivered to, that'd just be one stop, so you get 1 point. But if you can weave this track through several towns and cities on the way to its destination, you could get 3, 4, 5 points. The trick is you have to have an engine that's strong enough to make that delivery. So if you're going to make a 5-point run, you have to have a strength 5 engine, basically your engine upgraded 5 times. So you kind of have to balance making these really long, elaborate tracks to get as many points as possible with, hey, I've only got a 3 engine right now. Let's do some shorter delivery runs. And, trying to figure out regions you can deliver to and whatnot is part of the strategy. The other thing you can do with the die is pick up one of the 6 power cards, each with a number 1 through 6 on them. And then those can kind of break the game by modifying dice, or one of them gives you unlimited track run. So basically it treats it as your engine strength is infinite. You can take it as long as you want. Some of these are one-time use. Some of these last forever once you have it or until someone steals it from you. The ones that are infinite and you can use over and over have negative victory points on them. So maybe you don't want to have them at the end of the game or only take them if you desperately need them. The one-time ones, if you have them at the end of the game, are worth positive victory points. So that's what you do with the dice. And then obviously if you go first, you have the best selection. If you're last, there's only 2 dice to choose from. You're kind of stuck with your options at that point. And this goes round and round until 3 of the 6 cities are empty of their goods to deliver, at which point you total up the amount of delivery points you've made, the routes you have built, any special cards you have, and how much you've upgraded your engine, and whoever has the most points wins. I've only played this as a solo game, and you play against Olive, which is the name of the AI, and I like to think of Olive as a her. It could be a him. It's one of those genderless names that could go either way. So whatever you want your Olive to be when you're playing. I won. It was pretty interesting trying to balance these decisions on what's best for me versus what will prevent Olive from scoring a lot of points this round. I love train games. I don't get to play them often enough. This is a train game you can play in 20 minutes with up to, I think, 5 friends. I give it a 5 on the rating. It's absolutely wonderful. It takes everything I love about Steam and condenses it down into a 20-minute roll and write game.
Oh, nice.
So that's Steamrollers by Flatline Games.
Yeah, roll and write games have become very popular, and they're very fun. All the ones that I've played, which isn't very many, but the ones that I've played have been a blast.
Yeah.
All right, now this one, I'm looking at what you wrote in the show notes here. It says year published 2015, but then it says the Kickstarter was 2017.
Yep, and it just delivered a couple weeks ago. The delivery started, so.
Okay, any idea why the gap between the publication date and the Kickstarter date?
The Kickstarter was to get U.S. distribution. There were several games published in Europe. Flatline Games, I believe, is a European company.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. The original release was in Dutch, English, French, and German overseas. And the Kickstarter is basically to get games out to a broader audience.
Okay.
But thankfully, for here in America, if you missed the Kickstarter, Stronghold Games will be picking up. It looks like there's going to be an estimated street date of June of this year. So
nice.
Yeah, I'm very excited for people who love train games and roll and write games. It's a great one.
I'll keep an eye out for it. All right. This is unusual. I'm looking at the show notes here, and all the games that we're rating today have all gotten 5s. That's unusual.
Yeah, but we do like to talk about the things we love, so...
This is true, but that hasn't stopped me from talking about a game I played recently and rating it poorly when it deserves it, so...
Yeah.
All right, well, the last one that I'm going to talk about is one that I have just been playing the heck out of, and that is Tokaido, but not the board game. I've been playing the app. I believe the last time Sarah Reed was on, she told me about the Tokaido app, and I was like, oh, I'll have to give that a shot. And I have been playing the heck out of it. It's a beautiful app. Have you tried either the board game or the app yet, Jesse?
I have the board game. I've played it several times. I have a few of the expansions. I absolutely love Tokaido. It's a great game.
Well, if you want something to entertain yourself for about 20 minutes at a time, the Tokaido app will do that for you. You can also play it online against other people. I haven't done that yet. I suspect it would take a lot longer than 20 minutes, as people take their time in getting back to do their turn. But playing the solo game against the AI is fantastic. I found it really unpredictable on what people are going to do. Now, let me explain Tokaido for those who don't know. Tokaido is a game that has been described as an anti-race. Basically, you're on vacation in feudal Japan, and you are going on a journey from, I think it's Edo to Kyoto.
Yes.
Edo being modern-day Tokyo, I believe. Anyway, you're starting at one end of the board, and you are going to these various destinations along the way. And every so often, there's an inn. Everybody has to stop at the inn. And you have the option of buying a meal at the inn. Now, Tokaido has an interesting movement mechanism in that the person who's farthest behind goes next. So the turn order changes throughout the game. So you pick a destination and you move your piece there. And you can move your piece all the way to the next inn. You can't go past the next inn. It's played over a series of 4 days. You move it to a destination, and then you interact with that destination. So the destinations include hot springs. Apparently there are lots of hot springs on the Japanese island that Edo and Kyoto are located on. There is another place where you can paint a panorama of a rice paddy. There's a place where you can paint a panorama of a mountain. Another one that is a panorama of a seascape. You can stop at the temple and donate money. Each coin that you donate is a victory point. And whoever donates the most money at the end of the game gets extra victory points for doing that. There are little souvenir shops along the way where you can stop and buy souvenirs. And the souvenirs are broken up into 4 different categories. And you're trying to collect sets of one of each category. And the objects cost anywhere from 1 coin to 3 coins. And then there are encounters that you can have with people along the way. There's a destination where you can have an encounter. Now, some of these destinations only allow for 1 person to stop there. So if you're the person that stops there, no one else is going to be able to take advantage of that destination. Oh, there is one other destination, that's farms. Basically, farms are where you can get more money for your journey. So basically, you're working on the farm for a day and earning 3 coins. Basically, how you restock your money, because money is limited in this game.
Yeah.
So anyway, you're moving along, and first person that gets to the inn deals out the number of food cards equal to the number of players plus 1. So everybody has a choice. The food cards cost anywhere from 1 to 3 coins. And you can opt not to take any food, but if you're the person that I think it's spent the most on food during the journey, you can get some extra victory points at the end of the game for doing that. So you don't want to neglect buying a meal either, because that, again, is extra victory points. And it's actually 6 points when you buy the meal. So that's a big chunk of points right there. You're basically taking this stroll. Some of the farms are only 1 or 2 people can stop there depending on how many players are playing. So not everybody is going to be able to stock up on coins. Also, too, the player characters are asymmetrical. So they all start with different amounts of money. They all start with different player powers. One player, when he gets to the inn, he gets to, in addition to buying a meal, he also gets to complete a panel of the panorama of his choice or her choice. Another one, when she gets to the inn, she gets offered a free meal, which she can take, or she can reject it and then spend money to buy a meal. And she's not always offered the, cheapy 1 coin meals. Sometimes she's offered a 3 coin meal. It just depends on what comes up. So the player powers are varied like that. Some characters get victory points and coins for donating at the temple. Some get, for every coin they put in, another coin is put in, and they get a point for that. And you do this over a series of 4 days. You get extra points for completing panoramas. There's one panorama has 3 panels, one has 4 panels, and one has 5 panels. And each of the panels is worth victory points as well. So it's kind of competitive. And as you're going along, somebody comes and gets to go first, before you, and they land on the site that you wanted to go to next. And you're like, oh, you dirty rat. I was going to go there. Well, I find that with the app, you're still doing that. You're like, oh, dang it. I wanted to go there. Even though I'm playing against the AI, it's like, oh, man, this is a good AI.
Yeah.
The art in this is beautiful, just like the board game. Instead of little colored dots that you move along the path on the board, it looks like your characters, and they act like your character. And you see them run along the path, and then they stop, and one gal does a little twirl and her hair flips around. Another character is carrying a big backpack, and so he's walking like he's carrying a ginormous backpack. Another character, when he gets there, he's got a fan in his hand, and he does a very formal bow, and then he fans himself. So it's just amusing to watch these different characters. You can play any of the characters, and then you tell it how many AI characters you want to play against, and it randomly selects those. The music in this game is very soothing. This is a very zen game, along the same lines as the Lanterns app. I don't turn the music off for this, even when I'm playing it in public. It's like nobody's going to care because it's very peaceful. It's very zen. It's a great game. And like I said, it's been called the anti-race. You're trying to take your time in order to earn as many victory points as possible. You're not trying to be the first one to get to the end city. You're just trying to take your time and see what you can see and have as many experiences as you can have and take advantage of your player powers to earn more points. It's a very laid-back game, and I am having a blast with it. I absolutely give this app a 5. It is available on both iOS and Android. There is apparently one of the expansions for Tokaido is supposed to be coming out, but I haven't seen it yet. And I just did a check on the Android store, and it's not there yet. But the Crossroads expansion is supposed to be coming to the app as well. So I'm looking forward to that. So very zen game.
Yeah, I absolutely love Tokaido. Japanese history from the Warring States period through the Tokugawa period are kind of a favorite history area of mine for studying and enjoying. And yeah, Tokaido, it's relaxing to a point until you realize, oh, this is a game and there is strategy involved.
There is.
If everyone's in a hurry to complete something, the person at the end of the line can finally find themselves like 2 or 3 spots open in front of them, and they could take 3 turns in a row before anyone else can act. So it's a balancing act of making sure you get what you need to make your strategy work, but not give away too much to all the other players as well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it is a very relaxing game. It is a unique experience when compared to other board games. I also recommend it.
Now, the movement mechanism where the person at the back of the pack goes next, I've only seen that in one other game, and that's Rocky Road a la Mode. Have you seen it in any other games?
Nothing that comes to mind.
It's a different mechanism, but I like it.
Yeah.
It's annoying sometimes because you're like, oh, I have to go here because I need money and I can't let anybody else take that spot. But now I have to sit here and wait while everybody else goes 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we've been playing.
We have set up and been referring to and rating games by our own rating scale. Here's how we are using this scale. 5. Buy this now. 4. A good solid game. 3. Decent with some bugs. 2. Has great potential as kindling. And 1. Give me back the time I spent playing it.
Today, Jesse and I are discussing board games that do theme really well. We want to start off the discussion by defining what we mean when we talk about a theme in tabletop games. Theme is generally defined as the subject or topic of a game. Some might say that abstract games do not have theme. I would argue otherwise in some cases. Chess is a classic abstract game with a rival royal court theme, for example, and some have even said it has a war theme to it. Onitama has a martial arts theme to it. But not all abstract games do have a theme. For example, backgammon doesn't really have a theme, nor does Mancala. A classic way to define theme is to resort to games based on established IPs or intellectual property. For example, Star Wars, Star Trek, Battlestar Galactica, and Firefly, which, by the way, all fall into the broader space-themed games. One of my personal favorite themes. But they are also subgenres because there are multiple games of each based on their particular IPs. There are games that are based on a zillion possible other themes, such as the American West, anthropomorphic animals, archaeology, city building, the Cold War, dinosaurs, fast food, Greek mythology, etc. I could go on and on. So for this discussion, I don't want us to land on just one particular theme, like space or war or pirates, but to discuss some of our favorite games and why and how they embrace their theme so well. Jesse, do you have anything to add to that?
A couple of things. When I was thinking about this, I'm trying to decide what is a well-themed game. So strong themed games give you immersion. You feel like you're doing what the game is simulating, or at least the game is simulating what it's supposed to be doing well. Things that can enhance that are solid mechanics that support the theme, top-notch components, the art, and finally, you can figure out if a game has a strong theme is like stripping paint. If you just strip the theme off using your putty knife and whatnot, and what you're left with is an abstract, then the game didn't have a solid theme to it. You could have pasted anything on there. But if you take the theme away and the game starts to fall apart, especially in the mechanics department, then that's probably a sign that you have a strong themed game.
So what would be an example of a weak themed game, in your opinion?
Oh, well, you talked about abstracts, and yeah, that chess, it's simulating a battle, I suppose. Playing card games, those are fairly themeless. Pitch, Pinochle, we talked about. Even Wizard, once you took the art away and just used standard playing cards for the art, there's very little theme to speak of there.
That's true.
A more specific example of a board game, Lords of Waterdeep. People really like the game, and I love Dungeons and Dragons. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy Lords of Waterdeep. But if you were to take a lot of that theme away, you're basically trading in cubes for different cubes, or cubes for victory points, or cubes for money. And you could have put about any theme you wanted on top of that, and it would still work as a game. So it's a good theme, it's just not strongly themed.
Now, I would also have to argue that a game that has a well-done theme doesn't cause cognitive dissonance with that theme.
Sure.
One example that I have that I don't even like this game anymore. I've played it a few times, and when it hits a table, I'm like, nope, thanks, I'll go find something else. And that is Legendary Marvel, the Marvel deck building game. In that game, you're fighting the villains, which, yay, that's good, but you're also competing against one another. And that's where the cognitive dissonance comes in. Superheroes are supposed to work together. They're not supposed to compete against each other. They're not supposed to fight each other. They're not supposed to sabotage each other. And so when that happens in the game, I'm like, oh, whoa, wait a minute. No, not cool, but it's part of the game. So that's why I don't even like it. I've also been hesitant to try Legendary Buffy as much as I love the Buffy theme and the Buffy IP. I worry that because it's under that Legendary branding, that it's going to be the same way, that it's, yes, you're fighting the monster of the week, but the Scooby game's also competing against one another. I haven't played it. I haven't seen it on the table. So if you have played this game and you know otherwise, by all means, reach out to me on Twitter or Board Game Geek in our guild number 2600 and let me know what you think. Should I give it a try or should I take a pass on it based on that? But getting back to games that do theme well, Jesse, why don't you go ahead and start us off? What's your first game that you want to talk about that does theme really, really well?
I'll go ahead and start with the Broken Record game. About every time I'm on here, I will mention at least once or twice Terraforming Mars, and I do consider this a strongly themed game.
That's your Firefly.
Yeah, basically, if you have Firefly, I have Terraforming Mars. So yeah, I would consider this, it's a pinnacle science fiction game, very hard science fiction. It's very plausible and possible that all these technologies could exist or will exist soon. You could call it an economic game, industry, manufacturing game, territory building, but primarily it's a hard sci-fi game about terraforming Mars, exactly what it says on the tin. The Frixelius family is responsible for this. Jacob Frixelius designed it. Isaac did the art on it. Some people pan the art because it looks too gimmicky or too 20 years ago or too photography, but I actually like the art in this game. It kind of gives it that hard sci-fi look. Frix Games, their own design company, is the original publisher. Stronghold does it here in the US. And it was published in 2016. So for those who haven't heard me describe terraforming Mars for the umpteenth time, you're basically terraforming Mars. You're doing this over a series of generations. You're playing the role of a giant corporation sponsored by the world government on Earth. So there's the science fiction part. Earth is unified. Now corporations are somewhat benevolent in their efforts to terraform Mars. They still compete. And if you use the corporate expansion, they can actually attack each other financially at times. But you're trying to raise the temperature of the planet, increase its oxygen level, and increase its ocean coverage until it's habitable by humans. Like I said, it's done over a series of generations. You generate your own resources such as greenery, iron, titanium, mega credits, and use those to fund projects that you do over the course of these generations. And again, with the ultimate goal is increasing the temperature, oxygen, and ocean coverage until it's habitable. You count your terraforming rating and all the victory points generated by all your projects and all the milestones and awards that you qualify for and funded. It's really got a lot of moving parts. It's a solid game. Board Game Geek, as of the recording of this, is number 5 overall. And,
oh, wow.
And number 4 in strategy. So I think it's deserved. Yeah, there's issues with the components. Yeah, the art may not be your cup of tea, but you take those two small factors away, it is strongly themed. You tried to strip the theme away from this because the mechanics support it so much, it just kind of falls apart. The theme is there, so...
Yeah, and the theme works.
Yes, it does, in spades. So, again, I can't say enough about Terraforming Mars. As if you didn't know, it's a solid 5 on the rating.
Yeah, I rate it 5 as well. I don't have a problem with the art at all. My biggest gripe about this game is the component quality.
Yeah.
The more you play it, the more chipped your gold, silver, and copper pieces get. The player mats that come with it are, like one step above copy paper. Thankfully, several different companies and individuals have come up with solutions for that issue. I personally own the Broken Token Organizer, which comes with wooden player mats. But I've seen plastic ones where you take the paper play mat that comes with it and you encase it in this plastic and it holds the cubes in place. And then you've got the artwork of the player mat showing through the plastic. There are various different player mat solutions for Terraforming Mars that came out very quickly after the game was published. Those two components are the only things that I really have to gripe about on this game. And I enjoy it so much. It's become one of those games that nobody wants to have to learn a new game. Nobody wants to have to figure something out, but everybody wants to just sit down and play a game. This is the one that hits the table.
Yeah.
In my game group, this, Power Grid, and Seven Wonders are the ones that come out when everybody just wants to play a game they already know.
Like you, this is one of the few games I actually sleeve my cards because the cards are rather thin.
I do too.
My solution was very inexpensive. I found someone on Etsy who made little boards with divots in them so I could keep track of production. I don't care about the actual cubes that are in your storage. If you bump the table, most of those stay in place. It's the production cubes that tend to fly all over. So that solved that problem, and I was perfectly happy with that. I went cheap on that route, but it's unfortunate. We all wish it could be more like Scythe in that they have the beautiful player boards with the divots in it so nothing moves. But don't let that stop you from trying this game. It is amazing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. I couldn't agree more. The first game that I'm going to talk about is Power Grid. I love this game. This is my husband's all-time favorite game. The theme of it is capitalism and economics. Basically, you have a map in front of you, and there are more than a dozen maps at this point, I think. You're building power plants to power cities on this map. I mean, it sounds pretty basic, but it's really immersive. I mean, you're going to an auction and buying power plants, and you're really hoping that the green power plants come up so that you don't have to buy resources, so you can, go into more cities. But if the power plants that require resources come up, you're really hoping that it's the efficient ones and not the inefficient ones that are coming up. You want to be able to power 3 cities with a single coal resource. Because coal is the cheapest resource, or you want to power 5 cities with a nuclear resource because nukes are expensive. This game is just, like I said, totally immersive, and it's variable because the maps are mostly different from one another. Each area of the world that is depicted has their own special rules. In the Benelux map, which is Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg, there are certain areas of the map where you can't use nuclear power to power those plants. Same thing with the Great Britain map. There's portions of Ireland where you can't use nukes. In India, garbage is a huge resource. And so you're trying to get garbage plants, but everything refreshes at different rates. And so sometimes garbage is going to be expensive. I really enjoy Power Grid. The art, it's okay. It's Friedemann Friese style art, which he has a very signature art style that he applies to all of his games. This is, like I said, this is one of those games that hits the table when everybody just wants to play a game that everybody already knows. The only reason Mark and I don't play Power Grid more often is that it does not play well 2-player.
Yeah.
That's my only gripe about that game.
I have heard many fabulous things about Power Grid. It's a game I should probably play at some point.
You haven't played Power Grid?
I know.
What?
I know. Rated number...
If you like Terraforming Mars, you will like Power Grid.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't seem like a theme that I would be wanting to jump on, being a very theme-driven gamer.
It sounds very dry. Yes. It really does, but it is a neat strategy game, and the theme is very much there.
Yes. I've actually heard tales of actual managers of power plants or people who do like regional power district managing, actually teaching interns the game Power Grid to give them a basic understanding of what it is they're doing when they're overseeing a power region or a power district. So It's not only thematic, it's also partially educational. It actually simulates what's going on in the real world. And for that, you cannot blame it for being highly thematic. It does what it says on the tin.
Former co-hosts on the show, Maida and Melissa, when we first talked about Power Grid very early in the show, they said this is the game that Monopoly should have been. It is a very good economic game. It does not take 6 hours to play. It takes roughly about 2. It's very immersive, and you're not sitting there going, "Oh, is it my turn yet?" It's more like, "Is it my turn yet? Can I go now? Yeah. Can I do my thing now?" Yeah, no, I love this game. Can't say enough good things about it. On our scale, I absolutely give it a 5. And Jesse, you definitely need to try this game.
I will seek it out at the next convention I attend.
All right. What's next for you?
I could have really put any Stonemaier game on this list. They are all highly thematic. But let's talk about the one that I surprisingly fell in love with being introduced to it not that long ago, and that is viticulture. Viticulture is, again, like it says on the tin, you're managing your own winery. Straight from planting grapes to harvesting grapes to crushing grapes on a crush pad to make wine, having that wine age in a cellar, and then fulfilling wine orders. That's it. But in that simple theme, it is such a tight, immersive worker placement game. I highly recommend it. So
this is another one where, the theme did not sound that intriguing. And I actually had to play other Stonemaier games before I was like, all right, I'll give viticulture a try.
Yeah.
Because, agriculture games, yawn. This is a really good game.
It is. I'll ignore that agricultural game comment. So I like them, but Maybe it's because I live in Nebraska. Anyway.
Hey, I come from a ranching family, so I've played some agriculture games that just have been yawn, but I realize that not all of them are that way. But again, sometimes you're influenced about a theme based on the games you've played with it before. For a while, I wouldn't play any deck builders because the first deck builder I ever played was Legendary Marvel, and I've already talked about that. And also, too, I think the first time or two that I played deck builders, nobody explained to me what you were supposed to be doing. Oh. And so I didn't get it. But now that I've played more, I'm more open to deck builders. So it could just be that I played some bad agricultural games early on in my hobby career, and I just need to play some others. But this is a good one. This is a good one.
Yeah, Viticulture, again, designed by Jamie Stegmaier, and when I was playing it, I could feel his design DNA all over this game, because you play one Stegmaier game, you get a feel for all of them. Co-designed by Morten Monrad Peterson and Alan Stone, Jackie Davis, David Montgomery, and Beth Sobel did the art on this. The art is beautiful. Again, Stonemaier game, originally published 2013 with the Essential Edition coming out in 2015. It's so thematic in that you're making wine in Tuscany and everything about that. It even has the game divided into the years, into seasons of the year. So in spring, you're determining when your workers are going to act during the year. In the summer, you have the summer half of the board where you're doing things like getting seeds, planting grapes, building structures, giving tours of your winery, and so on.
I love that they included giving tours of your winery.
Oh, yeah, which if you have like a tasting room and wine in your cellar, that can be even better. So again, thematic. And then in the winter, you're doing more winter-related things in Tuscany. So that's when you would do the harvesting and you do the crush padding to make wine and fulfill your wine orders and hire more workers for the spring. So again, the mechanics support the theme. If you stripped the theme off this game, it would fall apart because nothing would make sense without that theme. So yeah, the basic strategy is fulfill wine orders and get victory points from that and various visitor cards you play throughout both the summer and winter seasons. So if you haven't played it, it's probably one of the better worker placement games out there. It is also very tight. There's not a lot of wiggle room, so it can be a little punishing for new players if you're not sure what you're doing, but after you play it one or two times, you'll get the hang of it, and then you're just like, all right, I have a plan, and based on the cards in my hand, I'm going to execute this plan. So highly recommend Viticulture. Again, another 5 to discuss tonight because, hey, we're going to discuss games we love. So
Absolutely.
Viticulture is great. Check it out.
Yeah, this is a game that takes a few plays to learn well. The whole idea of the whole mechanism, I should say, of turning grapes into wine and putting the wine in your cellar and then, turning that wine into other types of wine. The first couple of times I played was just like, I don't get it. But then I think it was either late in my second play or early in my third play, all of a sudden it just clicked. And I was churning stuff out like crazy. So, like I said, it takes a couple of plays to get it down. And then I think this could be another one of those games that, hey, anybody want to play Viticulture? We all know how to play. All right, let's go. All right. The next game I want to talk about is Yato. Have you played Yato at all, Jesse?
I have not. I've heard you...
Oh, this is a game you need to play.
I've heard you talk about it before. Yeah.
Given your love of Japanese history, in Yato, you are, I believe this is Tokyo again. You are in feudal Japan. You are the head of a family, a royal household, basically. Not the imperial household, but you're one of the nobility households. And you are trying to jockey your family into power with the shogun. This is a worker placement game, so you are sending your family members, in this case they're called disciples, but it's basically your family members, you're sending them out to acquire things so that you can achieve missions that have been given to you by the shogun, or that you are undertaking because one of the missions that's the hardest one to do, but if you complete it, you pretty much win the game, is assassinating the shogun. But there are these missions that you're trying to achieve. You need a certain amount of money. You need a certain equipment. With some of them, you need blessings from the temple from some of them. You need to have influence with the geishas. So there's all these little moving parts that you have to take in. This game is beautiful to look at. My friend Kale, hi Kale, he introduced me to this game, and he put this game on the table, and before we'd even set it up, I was like, oh, this is beautiful. This is one I need to get. And I hadn't even played it yet. And then I played it, and I was like, yep, I'll be right back, because we were at the game store. I'll be right back. I got to go get this game. And when I brought it home, Mark's like, what did you buy? Oh, you've got to try this. And it does play 2-player. So this is just a fantastic game. It's played over 11 rounds. Why 11? I don't know, but it works. You're doing these missions to earn victory points. Person with the most victory points at the end of the game wins. So there's nothing, highly innovative about that, but it just is very immersive. The art on the game, the theme of the game makes it very immersive. The theme is feudal Japan, and then it takes worker placement. And could you scrub this theme off? Well, yeah, you'd probably be left with just basic worker placement abstract game or something like that. But the theme is what makes the game work. Like I said, it's very immersive, and you feel like you're trying to fulfill these missions. There's espionage, warfare, assassination, and kidnapping are the 4 different categories of missions. And there are 4 decks that you can choose from. They go from green to black. So green, yellow, red, and black. Black being the hardest. I adore this game. This is easily in my top 10 games of all time. I would probably put it in the top 5. So that's Chiedo.
Yeah, I was reading over some parts. Yeah, this is definitely set during the Tokugawa shogunate, during the Edo period. And yeah, it definitely is in my wheelhouse of historical periods. The shogunate was very interesting in that, there was an emperor who was the ruler of Japan, but that was really a name only, and Tokugawa, unifying Japan as a warlord, basically held all the power. So very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's 2 games you need to add to your list, Jesse.
All right, I'll get on that.
All right, what have you got next?
Well, it was hard to decide between several contenders for this slot, but I am a child of the 1980s, and the theme of this is one of my favorite themes of all time, as television. So we're going to talk about The Networks by Gil Hova, of Formal Ferret Games. The art by Heiko Gunther and Travis Kinchi is great. There's definitely a parody theme going on throughout the game. It's originally published in 2016. They've had a couple of expansions, including a Kickstarter, which will fulfill soon, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. So I'm looking forward to more Networks fun here soon. But basically, you are in charge of a television network. You need programming, so you need new shows, you need to hire stars and pay their salary, you need to get ads to generate revenue. Each show will have a certain amount of viewership, but they age and go into 2nd, 3rd, and 4th seasons, and as they age, the viewership can either increase slightly or start to plummet towards the end. So every show has their run, just like they do in real television, and you gain so many viewers for the seasons you run. The game itself is run over 5 turns, which they call seasons, but the shows themselves age in their own seasons, which gets a little confusing. I wish they would have had it called the turns years instead of seasons. That's my only complaint about the game. But overall, this is a top-notch game. The theme is strong. I don't know what you would put over top of this other than TV to make this game work, but it feels like you're running your own. All your player board is the name of a station, and it has its own call letters and logo. Each of these shows, the shows themselves are parodies of things that were on television as of 2016. Your show of choice would probably pick Waterbug. Which ironically gets a bonus. If it's canceled in the first season, all the stars attached to it come back to your green room so you can use them again. So, which goes because all those people in that show eventually showed up in other TV shows. Agents of Shampoo is another one that makes me laugh. They're all parodies of things that were on television at the time. And because of the theme, I mean, you could have expansions till the cow comes home. You can go back in time and grab TV shows of the past. You can, as time goes forward, you can parody more shows. You can definitely tell who the stars are. They don't have names. They just have adjectives like public access or public television celebrity, which looks exactly like Bob Ross, or the guy who yells a lot. That's Louis Black. The guy who stars in everything. You could find several actual stars that fit that category, but the art and the name tells you who they are. The TV ad parodies are hilarious. Sure, if you play this game a lot, it'll get, the jokes get a little stale, but this is one of those games that it has a great weight to it. It doesn't scare away newer gamers. It's easy to teach. I taught it to a church group. They grasped it right away. I can also pull it out with people who play lots of board games, and they're like, oh yeah, this is a good game. We can do that. It's right at that perfect balance point of theme and weight that makes it a game that hits the table a lot. So I know I've mentioned probably the Networks once before, but it's one of my favorites, and the theme is solid. Not surprisingly, a 5 on our scale. So yeah, check out the Networks. A new Kickstarter is fulfilling for it, so more copies of the base game will be available, and copies of the expansions will be out soon. So
nice. This is one I have not had a chance to play yet. I know Sarah owns a copy, and but I haven't had a chance to sit down and play it, and I very, very much want to. Because it looks like a highly thematic game that would be right in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, and part of me is hoping that someday someone will develop the radio version so we can have a WKRP-esque moment of playing radio networks.
Oh, that would be great.
The shows would be basically like rock albums or genre albums of the time. Speaking of which, there's a Kickstarter right now that I'm backing on theme alone that's in the similar wheelhouse. It's called Vinyl, and it's about going to record stores and getting record collections from the 50s through the 70s. And it's like, oh, I don't even need to read the rules. I'm going to back this because the theme is rock solid. So again,
nice.
a solid theme coupled with solid mechanics, and you have yourself an excellent game. So I have high hopes for that. But anyway, that's a little diversion.
Nice. Yeah, like I said, I haven't had a chance to play this. I very much want to. So maybe I'm going over to Sarah's house this Friday. We're going to play another couple of games of Charterstone, but maybe I'll see if I can borrow that from her for a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. All right. So that's the Networks. And the last game that I'm going to talk about in depth here, everybody, hold on to your seats. You're not going to believe this. It's not Firefly, which, by the way, is a highly thematic game, but I thought I'd talk about something else. And the game that I'm going to talk about this time is Time Stories. Have you had a chance to play Time Stories yet?
No, don't have a lot of legacy type players in my group. I have people who would love this sort of game, and I'm hoping to find a time to find someone who owns it and is willing to lend it to me so I can play it. But
okay,
it looks amazing.
It is, and it does time travel really, really well. And it is probably the first game I've seen that does. Now, I recently picked up Tragedy Looper at a flea market, but I haven't played it yet. So I'm eager to see how that one does time travel. I also picked up Doctor Who Time of the Daleks. That one, for being a Doctor Who game, it's a little light on time travel. But again, it's a pretty heavy game, and I've only played it once, so I think I need to play it some more before I pass final judgment on it. But Time Stories does time travel very well. Basically, you're a agent in this government agency that is trying to make sure that nobody messes with the timeline and changes history. And so occasionally you're sent back in time to fix something that somebody else has messed up. And that's where the stories come in. The first story, you're sent back to a French insane asylum in the 19 teens or 1920s. And the way they send you back, they're sending back your personality, your essence, who you are, but not your body.
So like Quantum Leap, where he jumps into different bodies.
Yeah. And you're going into the body of someone in that time. And so you've got their immunity, and if they're addicted to anything, you're having to deal with that as well. In the case of the first story, you're jumping into an insane asylum in 19-teens or 1920s France. You could be jumping into the body of a cocaine addict, or someone who's suffering from schizophrenia, or someone who's suffering PTSD or whatever. And so you are trying to solve this mystery. You're trying to, fix this issue in time, but you're also limited by the capabilities and the limitations of the body you're inhabiting. It does these stories so well, and everyone is different. In the Marcy case, you're sent into 1980s Midwest America, and you're trying to find this girl named Marcy, but you don't have a picture of her. Then there are 2 or 3 different people who could possibly be Marcy, and you have to figure out which one is the right one. And there's no spoilers there. You'll figure it out. In Prophecy of Dragons, you're actually going to an alternative timeline. And that one is actually my favorite story of them all because it put a little twist on things. Now, like Jesse said, this game is a legacy game. So what you do in the first scenario has ripple effects on your abilities in the following scenarios. And you're also basically earning hit points, picking up abilities and skills like with a role-playing game in order to take with you into the subsequent stories. I have not played all of the stories yet. There are a bunch of fan stories that have come out. There are, I think, 2 more stories that have been released. I have one that is, it's exploring in the Arctic. Then there's another one that I also played that was in ancient Egypt. And these games are very immersive. The board is black and white, but then you bring out these cards, and the cards are where the artwork is, and they're some amazing panoramas. And then you flip the card over to explore that particular part of the panorama, and that's where you run into trouble or get a clue or pick up an object or something like that. I just think Time Stories does the time travel theme very, very well. I have not yet seen another game that does it as well as Time Stories does.
Cool.
I absolutely give it a 5. It is well worth trying. And even if you can only play it once, the neat thing about Time Stories too is it's a legacy game, yes, but you can play it again. You can sit down with a whole nother group and you could play it, or you could game master it. I've game mastered it at cons. And it's just as much fun to sit there and watch other people try and figure this out while you're telling them how to play. You're explaining the mechanics, and when they have questions, you're answering their questions. But it's fun to watch them figure this out and go through the story on their own. I ran the first scenario and the second scenario at a con. I had only one person from the first scenario come and play in the second scenario. The second scenario was an entirely different group of people. And we just played it like, okay, you're all level 1 agents, and here we go. And I was so surprised. My friend Amy, hi Amy, she is great at figuring out puzzles. And I mean, she knew exactly which person it was, and she figured it out really early in the game, which just surprised the heck out of me. But you can absolutely play this again or run it for other people again. This game is completely reusable. It's not like you're putting stickers on the board and or tearing up cards or anything like that. You put the decks we put them in their own little Ziploc bag. We label it with which story it is. And if I'm playing with someone other than the group I started it with, I can pull out any scenario and anybody can sit down and play it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is one I would like to play sometime, given the chance. So, yeah, I'll keep my eye out for a convention game running it.
Yeah, it's too bad you're just so far away.
I know.
I would love to sit down and play these games with you. All right, so we have some honorable mentions listed here. that are other games that do theme well. I mean, this is not a comprehensive list. Even our honorable mentions are not a comprehensive list. Let me run through it real quick. Jesse and I both think Battlestar Galactica is really great at theme. I think the IP is wonderful as a space game. I enjoy it. How about you, Jesse?
Yeah, Battlestar Galactica is awesome. Enjoyed the show. It's a great IP. I saw the post on Twitter about them coming out with a Wings of War style miniatures game for it. So yeah,
I saw your Twitter squee.
Yeah. Oh my Lords of Cobol. So, But yeah, this is a great deduction game, and yeah, solid.
All right, Colt Express does American West train robbery theme really well.
Yeah.
Android Netrunner. I have not played Android Netrunner, so you want to talk about that one?
I played mostly as the collectible card game back in the 90s. The new one I've only played once, but basically it's an asymmetrical 2-player card game. One player is a hacker and one player is a corporation, and they have completely different setups based on what they're doing. The hacker's trying to get their net running deck up and running and get programs so they can crack the IC of the corporations, figure out what their agendas are and score points. The corporation's trying to build ice, either gray or black ice, to stop runners and forward their agendas to bring them fruition, to basically increase their influence, world domination, that sort of evil stuff. And I loved playing the corporation, and the theme is there. If you strip the theme away from this game, I don't know what it would be. It's very solid.
Okay. Next is Gloomhaven, which is a dungeon crawler board game, and it's also a legacy game. And yeah, absolutely does theme really well. You actually think you're some kind of mythical being going through and exploring a dungeon and looking for treasure and fighting monsters. And
yep, solid story. You visit town. There's events in town. There's events on the road. There's events in the dungeon. And it's a very long story tree to plow through. There's 90 some odd scenarios in the base game alone. You won't even play them all in your first playthrough. It's an epic game of epic thematic games.
Fortune and Glory. This is a game that I have, and I have all the expansions for it. I love it. It doesn't hit the table nearly often enough. It's an archaeological theme. You're basically an Indiana Jones type character fighting Nazis and cult members and trying to save artifacts, make some money, take down the bad guys.
Yeah. If you love Indiana Jones at all, this game basically sucks you into that world.
Absolutely. All right, here's another one that I'm, again, not familiar with, other than having heard you talk about it, and that's Legend of the Five Rings.
Yep. Medieval Asia, primarily Japan, simulates what I love about it, both the mythology and the warring states period of Japan. I played, again, the collectible card game more than the living card game that was relaunched. With honor as being a win condition, enlightenment being a win condition, and military, it's thematic all through and through.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, the rest of these, I'm just going to run through them real quick. Most of these we pretty much agree on. Star Trek Ascendancy, yes, very thematic for Star Trek game. Tokaido, we talked about earlier in the show. Again, very thematic, very zen. Scythe is an excellent game. That one is a little different in that it's like post World War I, but with advanced mechs.
Yeah, the term I believe would be diesel punk. It is very much, post World War I. Everyone's sick of war, so combat, you can still get area control through combat, but you lose popularity for doing so because everyone's tired of war. They just went through the worst one they've ever known. So,
right.
Thematic.
Right. All right. Champions of Midgard, very good theme Viking game. Clank is another dungeon crawler. Mark just reviewed that one on the last episode. I haven't played it yet, but based on his review, I would have to agree. My Beloved Firefly is, of course, an awesome themed game. I would also say Ogre is a very good themed game. It's a war game. What more can you say about it? You're operating these giant war machines, or you're fighting against these giant war machines and trying to take them down. We have the designer's edition from when they did a Kickstarter for it. And That was the edition I was introduced to. Mark was introduced to the edition with the little tiny chits in the envelope. So, he wouldn't have invested in the designer edition if he didn't love the theme and the game in its original form. So, another one that I enjoy that is considered an abstract game is Onitama. It has a martial arts theme to it. Have you had a chance to play Onitama yet, Jesse?
I've been wanting to. It's on the list of to play. It looks pretty cool. I liked chess back in the day, and this definitely has a theme that makes it accessible.
Yeah, this is one that I think you would enjoy. Again, Asian, I'm not sure if it's Japanese, Chinese, which one of those it would fall into, but martial arts theme, definitely. And then the first deck builder that I ever fell in love with is entitled Professor Pugnacious Portfolio of Perils, Pugilism, and Perfidy, the Card Game of Victorian Combat. That's the entire title. And I basically bought it based on the title. I didn't even realize it was a deck builder. I had played Legendary Marvel at that point, didn't like deck builders. I didn't realize this was a deck builder, but I just loved the title, and I loved the steampunk theme when I learned how to play this, and I went, oh, this is a deck builder. Oh, okay. Then I was a little more open to other deck builders and have played a few since then. So anyway, thank you for joining me for this discussion, Jesse. This has been a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. I love thematic games.
All right. If you agree or disagree with us on any of the games we've talked about here, or you want to tell us about some that you're enthusiastic about, feel free to reach out to us on Twitter. I will have our Twitter handles in the show notes, and that is ourturnpodcast.com/episode 75. And you can also reach out to us on BoardGameGeek.com, guild number 2600. All right, we're getting to the part of the show where we're looking ahead, winding things down. So, Jesse, what have you got on your plate going forward?
The biggest thing is in a couple of days I'll be getting together with folks for playing Star Trek Adventures on an online game. So we made characters last month, and we've been bouncing stuff back and forth. So we actually get to play the game coming this Friday, and I can say we're all pretty excited. So. Oh,
is this the game that you're doing with Crystal from Board Game Blitz?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Like I said, we're all pretty excited. I feel bad that we can only do this like once a month because, man, given my druthers, I would do this a lot more, but we all have our schedules, so.
Sure. Now, you're doing this with Crystal and who else?
Joe Sondow, who runs a lot of Twitter bots, a lot of them related to Star Trek even. And then Mason Weaver is the other one. He's also very excited about Star Trek type things, and following them all on Twitter is a joy. So I think we'll have a lot of fun.
Oh, that sounds like it's going to be a great time. What a bunch of personalities to get involved in something like that. That's going to be a blast.
Yeah, I hope they enjoy it. I will say I am a little nervous because I don't know them personally, just through the internet, and so I'm like, let's make this a good experience. I hope it's a good experience. So. Yeah, really looking forward to that.
Well, they're all friends with each other. I think you're probably a wonderful game master just listening to you talk about RPGs. So I think everybody's going to have a lot of fun with that.
Cool. Yeah, I'm hoping so.
Last episode, Mark and I reviewed First Martians, and I picked it up I basically stole it at a flea market. I picked it up for $20 at a flea market. It's another legacy game. I'm trying to put together a group to play it. It plays 4 people, so it's not like it's a huge group. I've got 3 right now. I need to see if I can convince Frank to come over and play in it as well. And then we are doing another round of Charterstone with Sarah and Will, and Mark and I are doing this. And then she's got another friend that is joining us as well. We enjoyed playing Charterstone with our group of friends so much that when Sarah said she was putting together a game, we said, can we play? So we're playing it for the second time, and it's a different experience. I mean, we know how it ended with our game, but it may not end that way with this game. So I won't do any spoilers or anything, but I'm really looking forward to it. And let me tell you, having Mark and Will at the table, they're like mirrors of one another. They have the same type of sense of humor, and so they play off one another, but they're kind of at opposite ends of the spectrum of that mirror. Will is very much a bright and cheery kind of guy, and Mark is kind of the dark sense of humor kind of guy. And so and they just play off one another, and you're just laughing half the time. I mean, so yeah, having those two at the table it makes it even more fun. So
yeah.
Anyway, so where can people find you if they want to connect with you online and learn about your adventures?
I am currently on Twitter. Handle is at Jess Metcalf, JESMETCALF. I am also over on Board Game Geek as MadcapCH. If you dare venture into the corners of the web, into Google+, I'm there as Jesse Madcap Metcalf. Google+, if you're a gamer, is a surprisingly good resource. There's lots of good little groups for role-playing games and board games. It's our dirty little secret because no one's over there. So publishers and various people interested in role-playing games and such make groups, and they're a good resource. So you check.
Nice.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that. I do a lot of stuff on Facebook, which you're getting out of.
Yeah, in light of recent events with the Cambridge Analytica thing and the discovery that Facebook Messenger stores your phone calls and tweets in a database and all of that, it's like, that sounds a little too 1984 New World Order for me, and I just can't support that anymore. So it'll be hard. Yeah, it's hard to keep connected with people, and that's a major tool. We'll have to see how things shake out, but for me, I will say goodbye for now. If it gets reformed somehow, I may come back.
Okay. Well, I hope you'll still stay in contact with the podcast. I know we do a lot of our organization stuff through Facebook, but I don't want to lose you as a resource, so I hope you'll stay involved.
Oh, absolutely. I'll be around.
Oh, excellent. All right, and you can get a hold of me. I am on Twitter as @OurTurnPodcast. I also have my own Twitter account, which is @Cathy's Brain. That's Cathy with the C. But I have more fun over on the Our Turn Podcast Twitter handle, so I spend most of my time on Twitter there. And then I am also the guild master in our guild number 2600 on BoardGameGeek.com. Come over there. We have some great discussions. Life has been a little crazy lately, so I haven't been doing as good a job at moderating that and putting up things for discussion, but I am hoping that things will change here very soon and I'll be able to get more involved in it again. I appreciate everybody's patience with me while I work that through. And then also, too, we do have our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/OurTurnPodcast, and it is managed by Sarah Reed, who does an awesome job. Thanks again for joining me, Jesse. I always enjoy having you on. We always have such great discussions. And like I said, I hope you'll be back very soon.
I hope so too. Thanks for having me.
So on behalf of the entire Our Turn podcast crew, that was our turn.
Now it's yours.
Thank you for listening. This episode was recorded on April 11th, 2018, and is written and produced by Cathy Ford and Jesse Metcalf with assistance from Mark Ford. We want and encourage your questions, comments, and feedback. Please call 916-426-2873 and leave us a short voicemail, or send an email to feedback@ourturnpodcast.com. Our theme music was composed by Adriana Crickle. Incidental music was provided by Ben Sound. Please check out our show notes to learn more about these talented artists. The material in this episode is copyrighted under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. If you want to learn more about the games discussed in this episode, please visit our website at OurTurnPodcast.com/episode 75. You can find a list of games along with links to their listing on BoardGameGeek.com. We are proud members of the Dice Tower Network. You can find out about other shows in the network like Boards and Swords, the Push Your Luck podcast, or the Game Pit by going to DicetowerNetwork.com. Thank you for your support. If you like what you heard, please tell your friends about us.